and welcome to SteamLUG Cast, Season 2, Episode 8. We're recording this on the 18th of April, and I have with me Derrida.
Hello!
And Namoda.
Howdy.
Cheese has managed to oversleep or something. So, yeah, let's get on with things. What have you two been playing?
Namoda, please enlighten us.
Well, I've been playing Guns of Icarus and Bridge Constructor, and I tried Journey of a Roach finally, which is not too bad of a kind of an adventure game, really. And some non-Steam games like Tale in the Desert's kind of making a resurgence, and Factorio.
So, I've been playing some more Dota 2 since I got my Dota buddy back from the claws of Diablo 3's add-on. And pretty much lost so many games, won so many, and ended up nowhere higher in the ranked matchmaking than before. And I've played some more FTL on hard with Advanced Edition content, managed to squeeze one more win in there. And I actually managed to, hold your pants, to get the NG Stealth Cruiser in the B layout to the final boss and died in the second wave of the boss battle.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but actually getting this insanely crappy ship to the boss is already a wonder in itself. And I've played a lot of System Shock 2, which is as awesome as people have said. And I think I'm almost done with it, but not quite. And also Broken Sword 1, which I played only a bit, but it's quite a good adventure game so far.
Did you get into the catacombs at the start?
You mean the very beginning, pretty much the second screen? Yeah, I did that.
Well, the bit where you have that puzzle lock to get through, and the
Yes.
bit they've added on for the director's cut.
I don't know if that was...
I didn't appreciate it.
It was actually quite a good puzzle.
Yeah. The original game starts outside a cafe.
Yeah, but that comes later, actually.
Yeah, it's just such a shame they changed it. I really like the original opening.
I never played that. Yeah, and last but not least, I played the new patch for the Free Space 2 open source Battlestar Galactica game Diaspora Shattered Armistice. So if previously you had problems playing that game to the end because there was a crash in the last mission, you might want to try out the new patch. Link is in the show notes, and finish it.
Awesome.
So John, what have you been up to?
After talking on the last cast, I said I'd get into Bridge Constructor some more, and I did. And I, just like Cheese, breezed through it in one sitting. Absolutely trounced his score. I was rather happy. 86th globally in leaderboards.
Well done.
I love that game, only because I'm doing well at it. I did say I'd play some System Shock 2, but I kind of forgot to get around to that. I've been playing some Sanctum 2, which is now in beta, so just playing that to file bugs with Icarus. And then mostly events, so Starbound, Oil Rush, and Duke Nukem. And we played that in multiplayer, Duke Nukem. Finished the game. I was quite happy with that. And outside of Linux gaming, I've just been playing some Infamous. That's about all. Right, so let's talk about SteamLUG community events. We had a Starbound multiplayer event. We're on Namoda's server for that.
Well, we actually had two servers, but yeah, it seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, I came in late and the server was full. I hopped onto another one. We spent some time just killing aliens and trying to loot the planet, but it was a bit barren, wasn't it, Derrida?
Yeah, we were searching for the one dungeon that pretty much every planet had, and we only found the sewer dungeon, which never has anything good in it. But I found a banjo and played songs for John, so that was a plus.
Oh, that was lovely, yeah. And then we were in Oil Rush, multiplayer again. It felt like it had network connection issues, but I don't think that's the port. I think that's just generally the game. But yeah, we had some good fun with that. I'm sure we'll have some more events. We played Duke Nukem co-op single player. Well, single player story co-op, however you describe that. Were you two there?
I missed that one.
Yeah, I actually am feeling a bit guilty about that because I asked for that game and then was so worn out that day that I just went to bed before it started, pretty much.
We had some connection issues to start with, but once we got into a game, we had some solid fun. Just in multiplayer shooting to start with, and then we got into the co-op and played all the way through. And shockingly, even though I bought that game when it came out, I didn't really play it much. So that's the first time I've actually completed the game, which is pretty amazing. But beyond that, we've played some Team Fortress 2, some Serious Sam 3, and people have been playing Guns of Icarus practice sessions to get ready for after the cast. We're going to be playing some Guns of Icarus online, and you're all welcome to join us.
So what's coming up for the next weeks of events?
For the next week that we've got laid out, we've got Worms Reloaded on the 25th. We've got Synergy, which is multiplayer Half-Life 2, on the 26th. We've got some more Guns of Icarus practice sessions. And we haven't actually decided the rest. I know that following some news that we'll talk about later, we will have some Nuclear Dawn events. But if you want any game to play in multiplayer with the rest of the community, do drop us a line on our discussion forum on Steam, and we'll see if we can book something up. Other events in our community, Swordfisher managed to patch our web host in response to all the Heartbleed issues with OpenSSL. He was quite active on that, so we have to thank him.
Nice.
Indeed.
Yep. Right, so Steam and Valve news. Valve have been on their annual holiday in Hawaii, so for the last couple of weeks there's been very little updates to most of their games. And the only interesting thing that's happened is because of this Heartbleed issue, that they had to reset all their Steamworks developer partner sign-ins and the rest. And it turned out that someone, I don't know if they hacked or whether it was just one of the developers had one of their keys taken, but someone managed to change the South Park The Stick of Truth game name to Valve, please reset all partner logins because Heartbleed, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been way worse if somebody managed to compromise Dota, TF2, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, all the viruses on Steam. That would have been bad.
I think it must have been a Robin Hood guy, because honestly, you could have tried to add one of the special subs to your game sub, or anything far more malicious. And if they just changed the name, I think they're at least trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Then again, they did it to Call of Duty Ghosts as well, so I think people noticed it then.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe somebody in the background did something malicious that people haven't seen. So.
Yeah, well, the way changes propagate, it's kind of easy if they had done it in the same revision that it would have been noticed. So I'm sure Valve are probably working out who's done it by now.
So we might want to add to the Steam news some updates that went to the Steam runtime for Ubuntu 14.04. If you have been updating to that and maybe have some issues with your games, try opting into the beta of the Steam client for now and see if that fixes it for you.
Mm-hmm. Gaming news. Geez, you're here. Hello.
I am.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you guys, and apologies for running a little bit late. So picking up where we were at, Star Citizen has been announced for Linux during PAX East. I think it was mentioned a couple of times, but the piece that I spotted was during the Future of PC Gaming panel, which had a bit of SteamOS discussion in it as well. It's pretty exciting stuff. You guys been following Star Citizen at all?
I haven't followed the game, but I did see the panel, and it was pretty well spoken.
Except for that NVIDIA marketing rep.
Yes.
I hate it when they sit people like that next to competent game developers.
Yeah, it kind of felt like everything that he had to say had a little bit of product placement in it, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
But and Palmer Lucky said that he uses SteamOS on his main desktop, which I thought was interesting.
I thought that was a terrible idea, and he actually recommended it to people and in the general public, which would be the worst idea for a first desktop Linux experience. That's completely horrible.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
That's being politic.
But my favourite bit was when the NVIDIA guy started going on about how, in answer to whether or not Windows would dominate PC gaming moving forward, And then video guys going, oh, we got all these good things going on, and DirectX 11 is really exciting, and we've got all this
12.
stuff past DirectX. Is it 12?
Yeah, 12.
Yes.
Like I care. And in the meantime, like while he's saying all this stuff, Chris Roberts is kind of laughing at him, and then he goes, by the way, like Star Citizens can be supporting Linux. It's totally where everything's at. But yeah, exciting. I backed Star Citizen back when it was happening. Just always been a kind of a fan of Chris Roberts games and stuff. Spent so many hours playing Privateer. And yeah, even though it didn't support Linux, and they kind of said that there might be a chance, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations going in. I just, wanted to throw some money at someone who'd made some stuff that I really appreciated when I was a bit younger, but yeah.
It came down to the Crytek engine part, didn't it?
Yeah. So it's upstream support that's providing Linux support there.
I really ought to buy this game then, because on a visit to Germany, when I stayed with a host family, I returned home with a set of floppy disks with Privateer on.
Nice.
I know. I couldn't actually manage to get it to install. I don't know what happened to the disks, but yeah, nice tidbit there, sorry.
That's alright, you should pick up Star Citizen and make up for it. You should be able to get that running. But they're targeting 64-bit only. Everybody's probably going to have to buy new machines to even run it. It's going to be pretty exciting.
I think my CPU is just going to be far too weak for it.
Yeah, I got no hope of running it on this, I don't think.
No.
It's nice to see some games pushing that hardware a bit. Kind of got stuck in a rut of all the MMOs that didn't care what you're in.
Yeah.
And I also created, just over a month ago now, created a organization, like a Star Citizen organization for SteamLUG people, if anybody is interested in joining that. One downside there is that I have to manually approve applications to join the group, so...
Elitist.
You can't set it to be open.
Oh, that's
I wanted
funky
to make it so anyone could join and all be casual and good, but and yeah, I don't get notifications either, so I just got to remember to stay on top of those.
At least they're in there. So we hinted at this a minute ago. Nuclear Dawn is moving out of beta. We were concerned a couple of casts ago that this game was never going to leave beta and might even get deleted. But yeah, it looks like from this Gaming on Linux article that the new stewards probably.
Yeah, so there was already a little bit of a relationship between Game Connect and Interwave before Interwave disappeared. I think they were both owned by the same holding company.
Something like that.
So ownership of Nuclear Dawn and Interwave's other IP were passed on to Game Connect, so the games could remain available to people who care about them and stuff. There are a couple of Interwave people who are still hanging around and working on stuff. When I say working on stuff, just being involved with Game Connect and Tech Connect stuff. But a couple of them were sort of keen to see things happen, to see that last beta get pushed out. And yeah, people kind of working behind the scenes managed to make stuff happen, and that's really positive. I managed to get my hands on the changelog, which are in that Gaming on Linux article that you mentioned.
Sorry, I was trying to see if we mentioned a game in a previous cast.
Nuclear Dawn or another one?
Fract. I thought we had, but apparently not.
Oh, I thought we had as well. But yeah.
Must have been in notes and we cropped it.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, Linux is at the top of their to-do list apparently for Fract, which is pretty exciting. Have you been following that?
I've looked at it once or twice and thought, yeah, I can't wait for that, but not recently, no.
I've looked at that game at its original announcement, unless I'm confusing it. It said pretty much that first-person interactive synthesizer game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that game when they first announced it, and it looked pretty interesting. A bit of a nice idea to get people into music through a gamified way.
From what I understand, it also has some kind of narrative aspects, and the game is positioned as a kind of environmental exploration type thing as well. But it's one of those things, if Linux support hasn't been confirmed, you don't want to get too deep into it or too deeply invested into it. So yeah, it's easy to kind of let things fall out of your mind like that.
Is that Unreal Engine or what's that?
I I have to say,
It
I'm not
says Unity on the
sure.
website.
I think it's Udemy, yeah.
Alright.
But they may have some weird audio stuff they're doing.
But yeah, heaps of exciting stuff on the horizon. Similarly, the Cube developers, when they announced the upcoming director's cut was going to be announced, I reached out to them on Twitter and said, hey, any chance of this coming to platforms other than Windows on the desktop? And they said that Mac and Linux might happen. They're not really sure at this point, by the sounds of things. But we mentioned that back in the first SteamLUG Cast episode, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. But the director's cut's got like a whole new narrative to it. It's got newer visuals and new stuff in it, which looks kind of interesting. But yeah, it's hard to know, because I kind of really appreciated the Spartanness and ambiguity of the game originally, and it sounds like that's all stuff that they've moved away from a bit.
I remember watching someone's video for this on YouTube, and they sort of thought, it must have been Total Biscuit actually, it was comparing it very much to Portal at the time, in the sort of first-person puzzly nature. But is the director's cut a separate game or an add-on or what?
I think it's kind of redeveloped a little bit. I think they moved up to different tech.
Okay, so it's going to be a new.
And yeah,
I was just trying to find it on Steam.
but yeah, if I remember, it used UDK, the original, I think. So the chances of that coming to Linux are
Pretty
pretty
low.
slim.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was UDK.
So, humongous news.
Yeah.
Humongous Entertainment, stewards of adventure games from the past that they wrote ages ago, late 90s, early 2000s, are finally putting all of their games on Steam, and they're including Linux in those ports. They're all running in ScumVM, and the ones that are so far on are Freddy Fish 1 and 2, Pajama Sam 1, Putt Putt 1 and 2, and Spy Fox 1. Have you played any of these games?
We've done a couple of Pajama Sam games for Game Club in the past, and it's kind of interesting because I don't know if you know much about the company, but it's what Ron Gilbert went off to found after he left LucasArts.
I knew something vague about the history of it. I do remember seeing these games back when they came out, and I must have just dismissively looked at them and thought, well, those are probably for tweens or smaller children at the time. But I actually bought Spy Fox 1 this week, and I've been playing it, and the jokes in it are brilliant.
Yeah, I haven't played Spy Fox, but yeah, they totally target younger audiences, and I think Ron has said a couple of times that he founded Humongous to bring in the next generation of adventure gamers, which is kind of nice approach to look at it. But also, Dave Grossman worked there as well, worked there as well. So he's ex LucasArts, worked on Monkey Island with Ron Gilbert and Tim Schafer, and Ron and Dave, I think, wrote most of the original IP to begin with. So it's some nice legacy at work there.
Yeah, true.
That's great to have them. I mean, Linux has really been lacking in kind of educational type, younger audience games and stuff like that. It's great to see it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge point.
Well, that was the thing, as soon as I was in the game playing it, someone messaged me on Steam to say, hey, is that working well? Would that, be good for my nephews? And, there's definitely a need for them.
They are charming. They really are charming.
I'm a bit sad, though, that most of them don't seem to have any kind of international localization, because that's always a thing for younger audiences. You can't just dump a lot of them with the English version. They would just not understand it. So that's a potential limit to it. I would love to give some of these games to my nephew to raise him on good adventure games, but it's a bit too soon for that. And as soon as it isn't too soon anymore, when he has had the English education in school, he will probably not like these games anymore. Then I can just give him Monkey Island.
It's funny. You hear all the stories about people in Europe, and other places who learned English from playing Monkey Island.
Mm.
No, actually, definitely not Germany, because these games were completely translated here very well, actually. something that people have forgotten how to do.
That's
Good
true.
translation, actually doing work on all the jokes that wouldn't translate just by purely having a word-for-word translation. You actually have to rewrite them. And they did, and it worked.
I guess that's easier to do when it's just text as well.
It sort of happened as well with British English as well. That I remember in my youth, quite a lot of games that we had either strongly American jokes in or strongly British, and it does seem that games have sort of migrated to. I don't know if it's just laziness or not being aware, or just sort of assuming that one English is good for everyone. That an awful lot of the sort of cultural subtleties are lost nowadays on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't know. In some ways, I kind of like that. I mean, I never heard of content being rewritten like that. But I know it always shat me that games would get different names in different regions to hopefully make them sell better. I'm like, just leave the original work as it was, and let it be its own thing.
Well, sometimes it's a trademark thing, like with Star Fox and the rest. So
yeah, it's true.
Lilith Wars on N64.
Yeah. Brilliant game.
So, Flibbit has released or announced that he's releasing a new port this month, which is Fist Puncher.
What do you do in that game?
Punch fists.
Shouldn't you punch around the fists to the faces to actually have some kind of effect?
I don't know. I haven't actually heard of it really much, aside from I knew that Flibbit was working on it, but I hadn't really looked into what the game was itself. Is it some kind of Double Dragon-ish type side-scroller?
It's a side-scroller, but I don't know anything more than that, really.
It's quite a simple 2D brawler. Some people say it is too simple, but I don't know.
Well,
can't give any recommendations or not because I haven't played it myself.
it's Fist Puncher. I mean, I think they've summed it up quite neatly in the title with.
Yeah, very retro.
Yeah.
I feel bad for not being more informed about this one, really.
Yeah, but Flibbit messaged me while you weren't here, Cheese, to just say that it's all done. It's just waiting on the publishing side to push it sometime this month.
Fantastic.
Yep. So some pretty surprising news for Civilization fans.
Oh man.
Yep. Firaxis are working on Civilization Beyond Earth, which, for all intents and purposes, is an Alpha Centauri spiritual successor. And they've announced that it will be ported to Mac and Linux by Aspyr.
Oh man, I hadn't heard that part.
Which would be their first Linux port, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think so.
I hope that is not one of these porting companies that gobbles up the publishing rights and then you have to buy two separate versions to get it on Windows and...
It certainly is.
That is one of those companies, yes.
Oh gosh, fucking damn it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I
That
know.
puts a whole new spin on it, because I had no idea that they were going to be involved. I thought it was actually Firaxis doing stuff in-house.
Yes, it's definitely a bit of a...
Haven't they done some ports for Call of Duty games as well, and on the Mac side, and you can buy those with Steam Play enabled, so you don't have to buy them separately? At least some of them?
I don't know, honestly.
I just hope they don't use Wine or Transgaming or something like that.
I thought quite a few of the COD titles were separate, split out. I think, was it Borderlands 2 that they ported, or Bioshock, one of the two that they were keeping reasonably up to date with patches for sort of expansions and the rest, so maybe they're getting better over time, you have to hope.
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But this game does look pretty sweet.
Yes, can't wait for it.
So I kind of been looking at a couple of videos, devs talking about it, and it sounds like they're, it's not going to be Alpha Centauri exactly, but it's going to be to Civilization, 5, what Alpha Centauri was to Civilization 2.
Yeah. So far more 3D, but still, it won't just be sort of static 2D isometric stuff. It will be 3D isometric stuff.
Well, if you can't wait, sorry, go ahead.
I like that they're rethinking the tech tree as a tech web. It's a kind of neat spin on the mechanic, particularly for this this game with the kind of setting and kind of style that it's got.
I honestly haven't played enough Civilization to follow along, sadly.
You need a good few hours to be able to invest in it. It doesn't feel like a game that's rewarding if you just approach it casually.
Mm.
You gotta get a good few games in.
Well, Civ 5 isn't too bad that way. They're kind of moving it a little more simplified.
I guess Civ 3 was probably the last one I really spent much time with.
Yeah, those are much more strategized.
I'm so not legit. I only ever played the Civilization for Nintendo DS.
Oh.
I played a lot of Civ 2 and a little bit of CTP on Bouillon.
I was going to mention, if you're kind of really into the whole Alpha Centauri thing, Pandora First Contact really is a good modernized sequel to that game. It's a little rough. The menus aren't quite as friendly as most modern games, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, neat.
I was listening to Idle Thumbs podcast earlier, and they were saying how the even Civ games are polished versions of the odd ones. So maybe Civ 4, would have been a far better introduction than Civ 3. I don't know. I'm just parroting someone else's opinion.
You could always try free Civ.
Absolutely.
I'm not serious.
I didn't think Civ 3 was that bad. I mean, I played all the Civilization games up to Civ 3. I think
3 is pretty
I
good.
just played them kind of religiously, I guess. 3 was narrated by Leonard Nimoy, right?
No, 4 was.
Oh, okay. 4 was the last time I played then.
Yeah, 4 was one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I think I spent the most amount of time on Civ 2 and Alpha Centauri.
Awesome. So this weekend, Frozen Synapse is free to play.
Hooray! Yay!
So get downloading it.
We should have another Frozen Synapse event. I mean, we
Yeah.
only had one, and I really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic game.
It's a great game. It's only like 2 players though, isn't it?
Yeah, 2-player. But
Yeah.
you can. Do they have a sort of leaderboardy match thing? I seem to remember. Didn't they have
I
the
think-
league system?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
tournament.
Yeah, well, maybe we can do that again.
We had some troubles with that during our event, I think, where a couple of people got booted out of the tournament due to some, I don't know, network issues or something, and so like you couldn't progress in the ladder because the people it was waiting on didn't exist anymore.
I think that was the last event I uploaded some YouTube videos for, actually, because it's got native video export.
Well, their Frozen End Zone game looks really cool, so that'll be great when that finally finishes.
Yeah. I was apparently Linux support for that's not too far away in whatever Alfrey thing they've got around the corner.
Yes, also looking forward to that. The first time I'm even remotely interested in something that looks like American football.
I kind of felt exactly. Had that exact same thought when I first spotted it as well. Aside from Speedball, I kind of like Speedball, the original.
I think I'm the only one that's still quite disinterested in it. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, it still hasn't sold me on it. So
That's fair enough. So a new Greenlight batch has launched. We've got 36 of the 75 titles announced are offering some level of Linux support.
yes, and we're going to mention a few of them. Get Even, that we talked about a few episodes ago, has been greenlit. Quite excited for that one. That's by the Deadfall Adventures and Painkiller Studio.
Yeah. Who bolted hunted? Oh, I did, because it was a 7-day FPS title, and I thought that was interesting.
What is that game?
I
I guess it's FPS.
Yeah. I think it's like some kind of first-person horror game. I think. It wasn't supporting Linux during 7-day FPS, I think, so I didn't actually check it out directly. But it's kind of nice to see games which were made during a week's worth of prototyping and experimentation. Often as just a throwaway thing, it's nice to see those get polished up and released
Absolutely.
as full games.
Though sadly, I don't think apart from Get Even, I don't think I recognise anything on this Greenlight list.
I'd heard of Neon Excesses before.
What's that?
It's a Descent-alike.
Oh, neat.
So it's Descent meets Tron type visuals, I guess. It's all very high contrast neon thing. And I think that's on Desura already or something. It's out already. You can get your hands on it. Lumo looked kind of sweet. Looks like this kind of isometric platformer puzzle adventure-y thing, which looks kind of nice. Magnetic by Nature looked pretty sweet as well. It's this kind of platformer runner game where you manipulate the magnetism of yourself or things in the environment to control your movement around, which is pretty neat.
Sounds like you've sold me on that already. I do actually recognise one in the list, looking through it again. Positron, which is basically a Tron game. 3D over the shoulder.
Yeah.
It looks pretty damn neat.
I couldn't sit through the entire video on Greenlight. The voiceover effects drove me nuts.
I'm just looking at a GIF.
Yeah. I don't know, it might be cool. It's hard to know what state games on Greenlight are. Like, it could be that was like a really early prototype, or whether that's, the polished thing. I don't know. But, yeah, fingers crossed, the world needs more prominent Tron games. I still crank Armageddon myself quite a bit.
Well, as you say, we need more
when I can.
Very caustic, neon-looking games.
And
I've got one to mention later on, so...
Steam releases!
We have a lot of releases to mention. I don't know if we want to mention ones that we like, or...
let's just
it's
mention
hard,
stuff
isn't it?
that we like or know about, Circuits looks kind of interesting.
Oh god,
People have been telling me that it's good.
It's space cam with circuits and less of the sort of swapping. It looks like a great game.
Nice.
It's incredibly cheap. It's also discounted at the moment, so it's like £1.50 or something silly. So yeah, everyone should have a look at that.
And as we mentioned earlier, the bunch of humongous entertainment games, and there's only 6 now, but they're going to ramp that up to 28 over the next month or 2.
Yep, you can even buy packages of the games that are currently unreleased, so they'll unlock as they release them, which is kind of handy.
If you want to fork out $100, you can get the whole lot.
Buy the whole set, yeah.
But there are a lot of people who've got their childhood that is their childhood, and I guess $100 for 28 games isn't that bad a deal.
Yep. A game we've mentioned quite a few times. I think it came via Greenlight as well, and it's probably early access at the moment. Glitch Space.
Now that may have been a 7-day FPS game as well.
Really? That's interesting.
Hmm.
It's a really interesting first-person programming game. You explore an area. You have to get past obstacles by literally programming the environment. You find a block that you need to adjust. You select it, and it gives you like a UML-style diagram of a logic circuit, and then you can basically just plug and play around with different modules to configure the obstacle to either get rid of it, make it transparent, shrink it, stretch it, and the rest. It's a very interesting game.
Maybe one game we should warn about rather than talk about is Earth Year 2066.
Certainly.
You might have heard about it already. If you didn't, this is the official SteamLUG warning, if I say so. Do not buy this game. It is absolute bullcrap. It's a scam. It is not worth your $20. Buy toilet paper instead if you want to throw money down the drain.
Wow.
The creator of that game has pretty much used unlicensed everything for his trailers, maybe even some stuff in the game. He is outright censoring every bit of criticism on his forums by not only deleting the posts, but by changing the wording of them to something that sounds favorable. So you really do not want to get invested in this.
Yeah.
This is not even World War, or what was that called?
War
The
Z.
War Z game style of
Rip-off.
fishy. It is even more fishy. So stay the heck away.
And of course, it's fish on all platforms, so we're not even warning you off a bad port. It's just terrible on everything.
My favourite part of all this is that he's locked and deleted all the forum threads on the Steam discussion hub and opened a little sub forum called the Troll Tavern, which is dedicated to what do you say, aggressive and trolling and mean and whatever threads that people want to put up. And he says it's also for all these stupid conspiracy theories saying that he is this guy called Aaron, who apparently had some other Kickstarter campaign that had its own controversy surrounding it or something.
Oh, very
And
interesting.
I opened up his profile in Steam and viewed his past aliases, and he's totally got that name in his history.
Oh, lovely. Jim Sterling did a few-minute video on YouTube just to completely mock the crap out of it, and he's actually said he's going to be doing a Jimquisition this next week to highlight the issues of early access and developers basically, doing this by deleting criticism and.
Yeah, that is on Monday on the escapist.com.
Mm-hmm.
So look out for that. It's actually a good show. You should maybe add this to your watching routine if you have any such thing. It's quite good.
Yep, he's kind of good to follow, and I'll try and get a link to that in the show notes when it's available. Any other games you want to talk about?
Well, no, Dorita wants to talk about Wasteland.
Yes, it's finally on Linux. It's a huge download of 14 or so gigabytes. There was another update, so just like an hour ago, and it's even bigger now. So
Lovely.
yes, you should have some space on your hard drive.
So how does it play?
I haven't touched it, and I'm not going to until the final version is out, because I'm not silly and going to spoil an RPG for me ahead of time. But you knew that already, didn't you?
Oh yes, but I wanted you to say it publicly.
So yeah, I can't recommend the quality of the port by now, but I wanted you to know if you like to play this game right now, you can do so.
You haven't even loaded up to the menu to listen to the music or something?
Nope.
Oh wow, that's dedication.
And of course, I've talked about it, Broken Sword. Some games are on Linux and up. It's the first one, the second one, and the fifth one you can get on Linux. But not the third one. And the fourth one isn't even on Steam at all. So
Yeah.
if you want the complete story, you have to do some digging around and at least a bit of Wine or whatever kind of emulation layer to get it on Linux.
I'm so glad they finally released the Linux clients for those, because after Monkey Island, Broken Sword is probably my next series of adventure games I absolutely bloody loved when I was a little boy.
We're probably going to be doing number 2 for Game Club at some stage soon, I think, as well.
Did you already do the first one?
Yep. Yeah, we did that after it was in a Humble Bundle. Might have been while it was in a Humble Bundle.
Did you do the director's cut then?
Yeah.
No! I really wish they would release the original. It's like George Lucas, stop meddling with stuff.
It does feel like it has odd pacing, and I'm told that that's a factor of the stuff they ended in for the director's cut. But then, if the rest of the series features this character and because it's new stuff for Nico that's added in, right?
Yeah, they basically replaced the start of the game with a new extra chapter, which I don't really think is that related to the story in the main game.
Okay. I
don't know.
I don't really know what fits and what doesn't.
That's the first time I've played that game, so it kinda... I might have felt at one point that something seems a little silly here. Especially now that I'm constantly playing the male character. In the beginning, you were only playing the female character. It seems like, am I playing both? Is he the main character now? It's a bit confusing, because of these new chapters, you only play the female character.
That's the thing, for the whole main game, you basically play as George, and you have a minor role with her.
But I don't find him nearly as interesting as her.
He was always a bit of an American.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it.
Well, the thing is, they always... I think they tried to over-accentuate his Americanism in the games, just to highlight, that it's obviously a British studio doing quite a bit of the work for it and the rest. And, he's still a nice character. It's just sometimes he's a bit of a pain in the arse. And then later on in the games, when they've got American tourists that you meet, you find they're even more absurd. But
Am I the only one who finds the acting in that game absolutely cringeworthy?
it's not that bad, I don't think.
There's also a very offensively written British lady, I might add.
Yeah.
she's in Beneath a Steel Sky pretty much as well.
Yeah.
It's the same actress and similar character.
It's just brilliant. I think it probably sits a bit better over here.
I thought it was pretty decent.
Though it's a bit sad.
Whereabouts are they based?
I think since they shut, they recently reclosed where they were working on these games. because they were hiring an office for Broken Sword 5. So I don't know. I think they're sort of an ephemeral company of a few people now, sadly.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
I guess this is what happens, like your money runs out, and because the big Kickstarter thing, and if you don't have the ability to pay people salaries, then you've got to refactor your existence until you get another project going.
Well, I think it's more that they had a really big studio back in the time where there were far fewer games and less competition and the rest, and they sold pretty well on in retail and the rest, and as adventure games sort of got less interesting with the consoles appearing, they kind of died out. With this Kickstarter, they've had a load of money to basically port some more games to iOS and bring out a new game, and it might just be that they're downsizing to see where what they can do next, or just sit on the profits for a bit and consider what they can do. But yeah,
this TEC 3001 looks interesting.
I know nothing of this game.
Another game that has just recently been released by lots of things. It's a kind of third-person runner racing game type thing. Also seems to be geared towards obstacle avoidance and so forth. You appear to play a robot who runs through this very narrow racetrack type thing and avoids pillars and other exciting obstacles.
Is that the racing game they announced at PAX, or is that something else?
I don't know.
I'll have to look that one up.
Tabletop Simulator we mentioned in previous couple of casts. I'm actually kind of surprised to see that released so soon. I guess it was pretty much done. When the Kickstarter campaign finished, they just had to do some polishing on it.
Yeah, that is surprisingly early, because it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about the crowdfunding for it.
I was going to mention with the Evolution RTS, it's pretty interesting that it's all based on the Spring open source engine, which is kind of nice. I think it's the first time a Spring engine game has been on Steam.
Going back to Tabletop Simulator, does anybody know if you could work it into a way that you could play pen and paper RPGs with it? Because it has like miniature gaming in there and some stuff. You think you could do that?
I guess the thing is like how much space there is on the table. How much oh no, well yeah, you could. You just I don't know. How does that sort of thing work? I mean, doesn't everyone just have their own pen and paper and their own desks and just use some kind of voice over IP to do stuff?
At least you have to do something like shared dice rolling, because sometimes people just have to see roll, and in other places...
Yeah. Well, that's definitely something you can do.
And it's for some combat systems in RPG, it's good to use miniatures to place everything and keep the distances in mind. I think like Shadowrun might have a very complex combat system, I've heard.
Yeah, so like apparently there are no rules. It's kind of up to players to just do what they want, place things where they want. So you tell someone when they're doing something stupid, but you can use miniatures if you want. You could set up. Apparently, you can import your own models and your own textures and your own bits and pieces. So you can build your own little environment to represent your dungeon or whatever.
Interesting. I might try it out then.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like it's early access as well, so it's not necessarily finished.
Indeed.
Are we done with this list?
But what have we crossed out here?
Oh, I added that. I thought maybe it's worth mentioning, but yeah.
Is it not?
Nuclear Throne. It's already released. It's in early access. It's a Vlambeer game. Just wanted to mention it because their website recently added the fact that, they recently added Twitch as a purchasing option, which is interesting enough. But above that, they've got Humble, and above that, they have Steam. And they list these options, and then they say how much they get from each one. And they say they get 70% from a Steam purchase. So they are pretty much admitting that Valve takes 30% of the revenue, which, as far as I'm aware...
Which is what people have been rumoured and everyone assumed.
Yeah, people have always said they thought that was it. And, even though it's common now with Apple and Google taking 30%, Valve still have never publicly said, or publicly given people the ability to say it's 30%.
But this only recently came to Linux, right? Or has it always been hanging around?
I don't know. That's why I thought I'd add it, because people were talking about it, and then I checked, and it got onto Steam the end of last year. So I'm not entirely sure this is the problem. With the store having a release date rather than like a freshly published, or came to this platform on or whatever.
Since it is a Flambia game, there's one important question.
What's that?
Has it been ripped off on iOS by some Chinese guy yet?
It would not surprise me.
But yeah, so it was only recently deployed to Linux.
Do you know how recently, or?
Within the past week, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, that's definitely worth mentioning then.
Because I knew I'd seen news articles and tweets and stuff about it.
But the other interesting thing is that the Humble Store widget, they take 10%, and I think they take the Humble Store website takes 15%. So if you want to buy games from a developer, it's probably better to go to their custom website, find a Humble widget, buy it that way, and then use the Steam key from that, and the developer gets the most amount of your money.
Except for itch.io, I think Dev gets bigger cut from that.
Yeah, I've heard of Itch. They've been definitely rolling out features very quickly. I'm subscribed to their RSS because they're quite interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Crowdfunding. I wanted to quickly mention this little title. It completely dropped off my radar for a couple of years. I remember it being sort of videos going up on YouTube a couple of years ago, and I was dead excited for it because it's, as we mentioned earlier, I really like bright neon vector graphics, and it's definitely got a sort of G-Police vibe. If any remember that game?
The video opens with Ronald Reagan.
It's brilliant. But this, surprisingly, the game's been in development for ages, and they've launched a Kickstarter for it, which took me completely by surprise. They're seeking a reasonable amount of money. It might just be so that they can publish on consoles. I don't know.
And the gameplay bits have this kind of sweet 80s vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Autonomous from Double Fine, which sadly doesn't have Linux support.
I think that's probably why I haven't played it or know anything about it. But
it's got that kind of intentionally retro wireframe look to it.
I see. Yeah. I mean, the enemies definitely look like a cross between sort of the first Tron film and Elite. They're definitely going for that, aren't they? The very stylized, blocky outline shapes, and I completely excited for it. Until, of course, they sort of got Microsoft to partner up with them for ID at Xbox. I'm a bit worried they might not come to other platforms. But yeah, any thoughts before we wrap up?
I like turtles.
And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I had a couple of people tell me that they'd heard about SteamLUG via SteamLUG Cast, and that's always kind of interesting to hear.
Oh yeah, by the way, we are a Steam community group. You can totally join and play with us, just in case you're one of those people.
Yeah, we should totally pimp the Steam group in the cast. Hey.
Yeah, we don't do that enough. We sort of mention, hey, we've had these events, but not sort of lunk back to SteamLUG as a Steam group, and so we've got an IRC channel on Freenode.
And servers and stuff as well. So we got some awesome infrastructure going, and some awesome community, and it's really, really important to be a part of it. It's really, really rewarding. You guys are amazing.
And I noticed that we're trending towards 6,000 members for our group. It's been slowly eking up.
Yep.
I think that's probably just from us not posting so many notifications recently. Thanks for listening to SteamLUG Cast. You can send us feedback to an email, cast@steamlug.org. You can follow us on Twitter @SteamLUG, and you can follow us guys on Steam. We're happy to accept friend invites, and we'll pull you into our gaming events.
We love you guys.
See ya.
Peace.
Bye.
Parmalucky came out with 2014 might be the year of the Linux desktop. Developers for it?
More like owners, I think. They are not really developers.
I'm not sure what to call them. Stewards, probably.
Sure, Steward's not a bad idea. The Steward of Nuclear Dawn.
Cheese is here. Let's just pause a sec. Hello, Cheese.
Hello!
Have you been sleeping well?
Guess who didn't set their alarm?
Whoopsie.
Or rather, guess who didn't pay attention to the AM/PM indicator on their alarm?
24-hour times for the win.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm fine. Whereabouts are we up to?
Gaming news. I was murdering the future of PC gaming bit, so we might just start from there if you want to lead with that. And
Although I kind of wish that I had time to think up some really awesome limerick about Guns of Icarus, and then you could just slip that in.